Pay close attention to this video. A woman was walking down the street, and at that moment a man who was in a car tells her that she was really very beautiful. She asks what he was talking about, and then he says that he had liked her very much and that he was thinking of having something with her. At that point, the woman walks up to the man's car and gets into the car. She thanks him for the compliment and says that no one had complimented her that day yet. He is surprised by this and asks her what she was doing. She says it was what the man had asked to happen, but he says he was just very surprised that she actually agreed to it. She told him that he didn't have to worry about it and that they should just go somewhere quieter. He agrees to that, and as he was leaving, he realizes that he had received a call on his phone. The woman asks who was calling him, and the man says it was his wife and that she should be quiet. The man's wife says she really needed his help. She asks him to drive to her work, but the man says that unfortunately his car wasn't working. She asks if he could take it to the mechanic, and the man says he had already done that. He said he was at that moment waiting for his car to be repaired. The woman starts laughing and the man tells her to stop it. She asks the man how long it would take him to get his car back, and he says he had been waiting for a while and that it would take a little longer. He said he would go to his wife after that. She said she didn't care about that and that she would wait for him. She said she'd be waiting for him, so he says goodbye to her and hangs up the phone. When he hangs up the phone, the woman says the man's wife seemed to trust him a lot. She says that she seemed to be a good woman, and the man agrees, saying that she was actually a great person. The woman then says that the man's wife seemed to be working at that time and that she seemed to have a great position in his company. He says that his wife worked a lot and that she earned much more than he did. The woman then says that in this case, that car belonged to his wife, and he said yes. The woman starts laughing, says that it was really interesting. She says that even though the man's wife earns much more than him and is still a much better person than him, the man still wanted to cheat on her. He said that it was a very complicated situation and that he couldn't explain it, because she had to be a man to understand. She says she didn't really understand what he was saying, and then he asks if they could leave. She tells them that she didn't care about that and that they could leave. At this point, a police officer arrives and tells the man to get out of the car as he needs to talk to him. The man asks what was going on, and the officer tells him to get out of the car as they need to talk. The man asks the woman to wait a while, and then he gets out of the car. He then goes to the officer and asks what was going on. The officer asks if the man was sure what he was doing and that he should rethink what he had done. The man is surprised by this and asks what the officer was talking about. The officer says the man had parked his car in a spot where he couldn't. The man is relieved by this, but tells the officer that he was in a hurry and that because of this, he ended up parking where it was prohibited. The officer asks if he was in such a hurry because of the woman who was with him, but the man said no. The officer says that he knew the man's wife and that he knew it was not that woman, but the man says that the officer should understand because it is a man. The officer said they didn't look alike and that he had a daughter the man's wife's age. He says that if the man was doing that to his daughter, they would have a big problem, but since he couldn't do anything to the man, he would just give them a ticket for parking in a forbidden place. The man says he's just doing what his profession told him to do. He asks the officer not to give him a ticket, and the officer agrees. He said that the next time the man stopped at a forbidden place and was doing what he was doing, he would be fined and taken to the police station. He said he hoped the man would change his attitudes and start respecting the women he was in a relationship with. The man thanks the officer and then walks back to his car, but at that moment the woman was leaving. He asked her where she was going, and she said that he seemed to be a very busy man and that his wife was waiting for him, but he said she didn't have to worry about that. She said they could go out another day and hands him her number. He agrees to that and tells her that she should remember that he was a married man, and then she leaves. Later, he arrives at his wife's work and she asks why he took so long to arrive. He said it wasn't long before he arrived and that he was just chatting with his friends. At that moment, the man's wife ends up finding the note that the woman had left in his car. She is very furious about it and asks what was going on. He says it was supposed to be a prank by his friends, but she says he was having an affair. He said he wasn't cheating on his wife, but she said she was tired of it and then said they were going to divorce. He tries to talk to her, but she tells him not to look for her anymore and then leaves. Later, the man goes to the woman's house and starts knocking desperately on the door. A man who was inside the house asks who was there, and the man says that a woman who had ruined his marriage lived there and that he needed to talk to her. The other man walks up to the man, tells him that the woman he was referring to was his wife. He is very surprised by this, but does not have time to have a great reaction, because soon another man punches him, which causes him to pass out. Later, he wakes up and sees that the woman was there. He then tells them that they needed to go to his wife's house for her to tell him that they hadn't done anything, but she says that she would not obey him. She says that this situation was very interesting because he was telling other women that they were very beautiful and that he didn't seem to care about his wife at that moment. He says he was just complimenting her beauty, but the woman says it was offensive and that he shouldn't do that to anyone. She then tells him that in order for her to be able to help him, he would have to help her. He asks what she was talking about and she tells him just next. He says he wouldn't go anywhere with her, but the other man is furious about it and tells him to hurry up. The man is frightened by this and says he would go with her. They were then running down the street and the man says that he couldn't stand to be by her side anymore and that she should just go to his house to explain what had happened to his wife. She said she would talk to the man's wife after he had been with her for a while and then run back. When she was running, another man says she was very pretty. She keeps running and when they leave, the other man gets mad about it. The man asks why the woman didn't say anything to the man, but she says he was just acting the same way the man had earlier. The man said it was her fault because she was wearing very flashy clothes. She said that it wasn't the fault of the clothes she was wearing, but that to prove it, she was going to wear another one. They then start running down the street again, but just as they were running, another man tells the woman that she was very beautiful and that he would like to have something with her. The man then asks the woman what she would like to say to him and she says that it was for him to understand what she had to deal with every day with the men who kept talking about her beauty. She says the clothes she wore or the things she wore didn't give men the right to talk about her body. The man says that he was very sorry for what he had done and that his attitude was not a good one. She says that the man had an excellent woman and that she couldn't understand why he said those things to other women. He says he didn't think straight about what he had done and that now all he wanted was to sort out what had happened. She says that what the man had done generated the whole situation and that now he expected her to go to his wife to solve it. He says that she knew that nothing had happened between them, but the woman says that she thought that the man must lose his wife so that he could begin to understand what he could not do. He said that he couldn't bear to be without his wife, because he loved her very much and asked the woman to help him with that. She then agrees and says that she would go to his wife. They then go back to the woman's house and at that moment, the man's wife appears. He asks what she was doing there and the woman says that they actually worked together. The man is surprised by this and then the woman reveals that she had planned it so that she could show her friend who the man really was, but that the man didn't need to worry, because she had already contacted his wife about everything that had happened. She says she hoped the man had learned something from that situation and that she hoped he would never be able to do that again. She then leaves and the man says that he was very sorry for what he had done and asks his wife to forgive him. He says he understood what he had done wrong and that it would never happen again. He says that if she gave him a chance, he would never do what he had done again and that he understood why she was mad at him. He said he couldn't stand being without his wife anymore and that he would never be that person again. He said he needed her help so he could be a different person and apologizes to her. She then tells the man that she would only accept his apology if he could do something for her. He asks what she was talking about and then she says he would soon understand. Later, they were walking down the street when another man said the man's wife was very beautiful. The man is furious at this and tries to hit the other man, but the woman says he doesn't need to react that way. She then tells us that she had done that to her husband, because he needed to understand what women went through. Later, they continued walking down the street when another man said that the woman had a very beautiful body. The man was still furious with the comments and tries to hit the other man, but she tells him to control himself.